Hi guys, this is just an instructional video on printmaking, which is the first task that we are going to be completing remotely. This video hopefully will serve as a bit of an instruction video or an instructional video to help you understand what is required of you while we are looking at printmaking for the next 6 lessons. So basically what you're going to be doing is in the first lesson, you're going to be opening up the presentation that's on printmaking. You're going to be reading through it and looking at those images and reading the information. And then from there, you are going to complete a research task or a theory task that's associated with printmaking. So that's going to take up 2 lessons by the time you read through the presentation and complete that theory task. Then you're going to start working on a printmaking booklet. Now, the printmaking booklet is something that we normally would have done in class, and once you completed that booklet, you would have created a relief print, which we then would have done in class as the practical part of your assessment. Unfortunately, we will not be able to do that at home because you don't have access to the equipment and the materials that we would normally use. So we're going to still do the printmaking booklet, which is the theory part of it. And then at the end of, or towards the end of the printmaking unit that we do remotely, you guys will have an activity or a couple of activities that you can complete, which are associated with printmaking. So they're not exactly the same, but they still give you a bit of an understanding as to what printmaking is and a few different techniques. And then once you complete those, you will also watch an instructional video on foam printing, which is the type of printing that we would have completed normally at school, so that you've got a really clear visual understanding as to what relief printing is and a visual understanding or a visual idea as to what foam printing is all about. So that is a really quick basic run through of what's going to happen in the next 6 lessons. Basically what you need to do is every lesson you need to go onto Compass, you need to read through the lesson plan and understand or make sure that you understand what's required of you. You also need to make sure that you log into Google Classroom and that you're logged into our class, which I've sent you all the link for, because that's where I mark the roll and that's where I'm going to be online if you have any questions throughout the duration of our normal scheduled class time. Okay, so if you have any issues throughout the next term that we're working remotely, please feel free to message me during our scheduled classes. I will be online, so you'll be able to ask me any questions. So basically in this video, one thing that I did want to make sure that we clarified was the printmaking booklet, just so that you have a really clear understanding as to what is expected of you. So I'll make sure that this video is accessible for you guys online, and I'll let you know where you can find it. And basically when you get up to the printmaking booklet, you can rewatch it and go through it and make sure that you really clearly understand what's going to happen. But basically the printmaking booklet is the theory component that you would normally complete in class before completing your actual physical print. And what we do is we base it off you guys creating a postcard design. So when you go on holidays, whether it's overseas, whether it's interstate or local, a lot of you may have purchased a postcard before and sent it off to a friend or a relative. The purpose of that postcard is to I guess say hello to whoever you've sent it to, and just to go through what you've been doing on your holidays and give them a bit of a rundown of where you are and what you're doing. So on the front of a postcard, you will find usually an image, a design, or a photograph, and it's usually something that looks quite good or appealing because it's representing the place that you are visiting. So what you guys are going to do at the end of this is you're going to design a postcard, and that design is going to be based off a place that you have been to before. Okay, so the very first thing that you need to do is you need to choose a place that you've been to before on a holiday. So it doesn't have to be an overseas holiday, it doesn't have to be a fancy place that you've been to. It could be somewhere local, it could be your grandparents' house. It just needs to be somewhere that you have been that is other than your normal home that you're usually at. So once you choose that place, you need to complete the first page, which says my idea at the very front of it. So in that, there's a few questions that you need to answer, and they are: the place that I have chosen for the front of my postcard print is. Okay, so that might be something like the Eiffel Tower, if you've been lucky enough to go there. It might be something as simple as my grandparents' place. Then the next question is, where is this place located? Now, I don't need an actual address, but you, for example, if you use the Eiffel Tower, you would say it's located in Paris. If you were using your grandparents' house, you might write the suburb that they live in. Then it says, when did you visit that place? If you visited it multiple times, just say, I've been there quite a few times. If you don't remember the exact date, that's okay. Just say roughly what year it is. And then the final question is, list 5 characteristics of your place that you'd like to represent in your postcard. So these things could be the fact that it was in the bush and it had like lots of trees, or it could be there were lots of buildings if it was in the city. It could be something like it had an amazing sunset, or it had a really beautiful beach and lots of shells that you remember collecting. The reason that you are answering question 4 in that My Idea section is because those characteristics are the things that you need to include in your design. Okay, so the reason that you're listing them is because it gives you an example of, or it gives you, I guess, inspiration for when you start designing as to what you're going to include visually in your postcard. Okay, so once you answer those 4 questions, you then need to move on to the postcard part. Okay, and in that part, you need to basically write the postcard as if you were writing it to a friend or a family member. Okay, so you would say, it says dear, the address, and from. So dear is who you're writing it to, so it might be your friend or it might be someone in your family. The address, you don't need to know their exact address. You can make that up. If you do know it, that's fine. We are not sending these postcards. So if you want to make one up and not use their actual address, that's totally fine. And from, that's obviously going to be from you, so you can just write your name there. Then on the right hand side of that, you'll notice that there's lots of lines. So those lines are for you to write your message on the postcard. Now, if you've never written a postcard before, or if you're unsure what to write, usually when you're writing a postcard, you're writing things like, dear whoever it's to, I'm having a really great time on my holiday, I'm in this location, maybe talk about what the weather's like, maybe talk about some of the activities that you are doing while you're there. And if there's any other relevant information based on that holiday or based on the actual area that you're in, that's a good place to write it. And then underneath, obviously, you can sign off and write your name. Okay, so that's the very first page that you need to complete. The second page that you are going to then work on is called Visual Brainstorming. So that's the heading at the very top of the page. You'll notice that there is a big square and then it's been cut into 4. So you need to draw 4 different designs for your postcard. Now, this is just the very first visual brainstorming. So these designs only need to be completed in grey lead. They can be a bit more rough than what your final copy is going to look like. And basically what you are doing is you're representing the place that you have been, or the place that you're representing in your design, in 4 different ways. So you're going to have a look at the characteristics that you listed on the first page to give you some inspiration and some ideas. And then you're going to design 4 different compositions based on that place that you're using. Okay, they only need to be created in grey lead, but they do need some good amount of detail, and they do need to represent the place that you've chosen and those characteristics that you did list. Okay, so that's it for the brainstorming, or the visual brainstorming. Then on the final page, that's where you're going to look through those 4 designs that you created on the visual brainstorming page. You're going to choose your best design, and then you're going to create your final postcard based off that. Okay, now if you don't really like any of the 4, but you do like parts of some of them, you can definitely put those designs together and you can mix and match and you can refine it and edit it. That's totally fine. You'll notice that on the postcard design page, there are 2 boxes. The top box says plan, so that's where you can just really quickly nut out your design or the plan of it. and make sure that you're happy with the composition. And then the box underneath is where you are going to do your absolute final design. Okay, now that final design needs to be done in grey lead pencil. Then you need to add colour, and if you have fine liner or some sort of dark or black texture or marker at home, the final thing that I would recommend you doing is go over your lines with that marker, because it will just make everything stand out and make it look like a finished postcard or a finished piece of art and not just a sketch. Okay, now that is your printmaking booklet. So normally when we're at school, you would complete all of that. Then you would show me all of that theory work. I would give you a piece of foam and you would engrave that final postcard design into that foam and we would print with it. Now we cannot do that final part of it because we're working from home, and like I said, you guys don't have access to the materials and the equipment. But it still gives you that theory side of it, and then the activities that I have put in the last couple of lessons, they will give you a bit of an idea as to what printmaking is all about and give you a bit of a creative, fun activity to go with this task. So hopefully that clarifies it for you. That's just a rundown of the booklet and a really simple rundown of the printmaking task that we're going to be completing over the next 6 weeks. But like I said, make sure that you log on to Compass, you read through our lesson plan, and make sure you also go on to Google Classrooms every time we have a scheduled class, so that I can mark the roll, and so that if you have any questions, I will be available for you to ask them then. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you're all well, and I look forward to talking with you when our class is scheduled.